Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to a new video. My name is Evelin Barta, and I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you're doing good energetically. There's so much that is happening right now. We are having the full moon very soon. I think it's tonight or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'm so confused about the days. But we are approaching this intense energy of the full moon, and then also the equinox, which is happening also in a few days. And there's a lot of intense energy that is coming our way, and then loads of upgrades as well. And you can probably hear it on my voice as well that I have a bit of a blocked nose. I have a bit of a cold. Yesterday was so much more difficult. I had really runny nose and watery eyes and everything, and today I'm feeling so much better. I'm actually feeling very good today. So apart from my weird voice and red nose, I have no problems. And last time that I felt like this, that I got ill, was at the beginning of December last year. And that is very unusual for me because in the past few years, I didn't get ill. So that was very unusual for me to get ill every 4 months. And the last year as well, last summer, I got ill as well. So what happened, for example, last year in October, November, was that I went very, very down in the rabbit hole. And I looked deeply into what is going on in the deep state of the society and behind the scenes. And I looked into the conspiracy theories and all the shadow aspects of our society and what is really happening. And that was a lot of energy to take for my nervous system and for my system in general. There was a lot of shadow to be integrated there. And what happens when you're going through such an initiation, because that was an initiation process. So the integration of my shadow self through looking into the shadow side of the society was a lot to take for my system, and that's why it reacted this way. And I feel like what is happening right now as well is that I'm going through another initiation, but it's not the integration of the shadow, it's not the integration of the darkness, but it's more like the integration of the light, which I'm going through right now. And all the aspects of the planets right now are supporting this process. They are setting the tone for this DNA upgradation. But I wanted to bring this up because you might be experiencing these ascension symptoms as well. This is how we call it, right? Ascension symptoms. But what is really happening is that the body is resisting the process. It's like, oh my God, what are these energies? Like, I'm not used to those energies. So this is like a self-preservation mechanism, and all these weird symptoms will be kicking in, like fatigue, like getting ill, for example, having insomnia. It is manifesting in different ways and different forms for each and one of us. So I just wanted to bring this up to let you know that if you are experiencing these kind of symptoms, it's because of that. In my case, my body was trying to convince me to get a rest now, take care of my physical vessel, to kind of prepare my nervous system for the upgradation that is coming. And of course, there are external factors as well that were influencing this illness to be manifested. But as within, so without, all the time. So these are the metaphysical aspects. So we are going through a software upgradation, and you will be experiencing not only physical symptoms, but then also emotional symptoms. So it can be the feeling of emptiness, the feeling of confusion that are happening when this upgradation is going on, because of course it's the death of the ego. It's an aspect of the ego that is dying, and the ego is resisting that, and then also your nervous system is resisting that. So that's why this is all happening. All right, so today I wanted to talk about a topic also that I think it's very, very important. I mean, all the time I say that it's a very important topic, but I feel like we are needing a lot of awareness nowadays about the metaphysical aspects of our society and the occult and esoteric aspects as well that are influencing the energies. So we need to have this understanding about how energy works and how energy is being harvested by the forces that are not wanting the betterment of humanity. And we know which forces I'm talking about. And we need to have an understanding of that in order to know how to change things and how to make changes in the society. So it's really the awareness that is very important. And I know that when I started to talk about these aspects and the shadow aspects of the society and the deep state and conspiracies back in November last year, or I don't know, in October, I know that many of you who have watched my videos and who were watching my videos were not prepared to hear that, were not ready. And let me tell you that taking in the information about the shadow side of the society and the conspiracies and all those horrors and terrors and what is going on behind the scenes is a very, very difficult process. It's a process of initiation. Like to take in that information, that very dark energy, and to be able to transmute it is requiring a very, very stable energetic system, a very grounded spirituality, a very grounded and stable place to be in spiritually. And that's why it's so difficult for many people, and that's why many people are spiritually bypassing and they cannot look there, they cannot look into that direction, because it's a very messy process. But it's extremely necessary to integrate the shadows. And that is why it's so important to use discernment when you're listening to people from the New Age community, from spiritual communities that are bringing this information as well, conspiracies. Because if the shadows have not been integrated and the individual is unable to transmute those negative energies, they will have an approach to conspiracies like, oh my God, humanity is screwed. We are really messed up as a collective. And this planet is a prison planet. There's no way out. Everyone wants to really enslave you. Everyone wants to trick you. You know, I talked about that many times. So that is the one side of one extreme of these New Age communities and conspiracy communities. Now, the other side is the spiritual bypassers, that ungrounded, bringing that ungrounded, bogus energy about a group of people, you know, this Q movement as well, which started, I don't know, in 2020 in the US. I don't know much about it, but a big psyop, a big time psyops, and the stories about the white hats and alliance and things being resolved behind the scenes by the alliance, and oh my God, we just don't need to do anything, we will be all transported to a new planet. Okay, now I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying that there's no truth in what they are talking about. All these things on an astral level are really happening, but not exactly like that. So it's important to use discernment, because the same people that are talking about white hats and are talking about the alliance and the Q movement and politicians, that one politician is better than the other, one is the savior, the same exact people are telling, for example, about Elon Musk. They are saying about him that he is having good intentions and he's one of the saviors of the planet, one of the white hats. That his Starlink and the Neuralink and the chips that are being implanted on humans' brain are for a positive intention, or for the betterment of humanity. First of all, we don't need anything artificial in order to heal ourselves or in order to have telepathic communication. You don't need an AI to be connected to your brain. So he's linking the human brain to AI, artificial intelligence, but at the same time, he's warning humanity against AI and the dangers of using AI. Like, his actions are not matching his words. This is not an enough red flag for a person that is using their discernment to understand that there's something wrong with that guy. So he is the biggest psyop and Trojan horse used by lower astral entities to trick people. And that there are people in the New Age community that are getting information about him, they are channeling information about him having positive intentions. And I'm not saying that those channelings are intentional. I don't think those channelers are realizing that they're actually getting information from lower astral beings. But if you are using your discernment and you are tuned into your heart, and there's this brain-heart coherence and it's working in harmony, then you will detect straight away that something is very, very off there. So it is so important for us more than ever to be able to read energy, to develop that function of us, that ability to read energy. And that is an ability that is innate. And that is the ability that wants to be suppressed by these lower vibrational beings with bringing in AI to replace those natural abilities. Anyone who is trying to get humanity into a direction of artificial intelligence does not have positive intentions. That's it, full stop. Everyone that is denying the natural divine ability of a human being, the innate spiritual power of a human being, does not have positive intentions. And the average person is really cut off from their divine essence. And these lower vibrational beings know that very well. And what is the difference between the average human being that is immersed in the matrix and doesn't even know about spiritual powers or esoteric meanings of things or occult meanings of things? The difference between those average people and those in power is that those in power never stopped using occult practices. They have been practicing their occult beliefs and they have been in contact with these low vibrational beings, like satanic beings, we can say, since the times of Lemuria or Atlantis. And this is an intergenerational occult practice. These are intergenerational practices that those in power are doing to this day. And they are gaining their power from the fact that we are not aware with that. So that's why I thought it's very important to talk about these things and to gain awareness about that, to have awareness about the spiritual and occult beliefs of those that are running this world or are thinking that are running this world, the deep state. So what is happening when there's a war or pandemic? What is the occult significance of that? What is the esoteric significance of that? Is that there is a lot of energy that they can harvest due to a terror, a horror, and human tragedies. So they are creating a situation where fear is very, very prominent in the world. And confusion is very, very prominent as well. Confusion is something that people are experiencing, and they are experiencing the terror, the horror, traumatic experiences, so they can leverage people's life force through these experiences. So we have to understand that these lower vibrational beings are having one goal, and we are talking about metaphysically, what is their goal? And that goal is to establish systems on the planet that are securing the planet into a lower dimension so they can feed on it. So humanity is generating low vibrational energies, and they can harvest that energy because their existence is dependent on that. These lower vibrational beings cannot generate energy for themselves. They cannot generate energy because for that your higher chakras have to be developed, but they don't have their higher chakras developed. They only have their lower chakras developed. They are working through those lower chakras, and they cannot generate that high vibrational energy for themselves to survive. So they need to feed on the earth energy. So that's why they want to secure earth into a low vibration. So entities like Klaus Schwab, for example, that has a vibrational level between 75 and 100, so like grief and fear, is that because entities like him are lacking the life force. They are parasitic, and that's why they are working very, very hard on securing the planet into synthetic timeline, the direction of AI. And that's why they are working with low vibrational entities from the lower astral as well, that are giving them instructions. So as I said, these families, this intergenerational occult practice with these lower astral beings has been going on for a while. And what is happening at these meetings is that these entities from the eighth sphere are making these individuals on Earth that are being incarnated on Earth and are in contact with them to feel special, to feel like the chosen ones. They make them to feel like gods, not being part of gods as we are feeling that we are fractals of God, that we are part of God. No, they are making them to feel really, really special, superior. They are convincing them that they are gods, that God doesn't exist, that they are the ones, the chosen ones. They are really superior to the human race, and they have all the rights to lord over the earth and the humans. So that is why these elites really consider themselves to be superior, and they really consider themselves to be the lords of humanity. And they want to enslave humanity because this is their way to harvest the energy. This is their way to lord over the world. And when a human being doesn't have enough life force that is available, and it's in a state of depression, these energies that these low vibrational astral beings can give to these depressed beings can feel very high vibrational. So someone who is on the level of fear or depression, I don't know, level of grief, and receives the energy of pride, for example, which is a higher vibrational energy already, that can feel like an adrenaline rush, like a rush of energy, and can create addiction. So from those low levels of grief or shame, which is very close to death, so there are not many human beings that are on that level because they cannot keep themselves alive because they don't have enough energy for that. From those levels, someone that is on the level of pride, for example, and is offering status and is offering prestige and money, that can give that individual an adrenaline rush, and that energy can become addictive. So this is how these people in the entertainment industry as well, they got very into these low vibrational energies because they were tricked into it because of the status that they were given. However, this is, as I said, it's an intergenerational practice, but I believe that many individuals join that don't have an intergenerational history of it as well. So they get caught up in that adrenaline rush and the energy that they are being offered, and they cannot find their way out. So we have to understand these energy dynamics and these occult practices that these elites are using. And what happened at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020 was that all of a sudden, many of these individuals that were and have been operating from the background up to that point started to step forward and started to act like the teachers of humanity. Like, just think about Bill Gates. All of a sudden, he got so caught up in this whole pandemic thing and started to talk about the injections and everything. Oh my God. Many people that we haven't even heard of before, they started to step forward. And what is happening there is that they have to do that because they are being instructed to do that. Because when things are happening in plain sight, then energy can be harvested. They can provoke reactions and energies of confusion, of fear, that can be harvested, that can be leveraged. And that is why many things are being hidden in plain sight. They can no longer stay in the background. They have to come forward, and they have to take a huge risk with that, a risk of being exposed, because the energies are not the same if they are just operating from the background. So we have all these individuals that we haven't even heard of. I mean, we heard of Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Foundation and what they were doing, but no one really paid too much attention to it until the pandemic kicked in, right? And there were many individuals that we never heard of that stepped forward. There were these groups that were being formed in the background, behind the scenes, these unelected individuals that we didn't know that actually had a lot of power, but they were elected by small groups to have a lot of power in case of emergency. So the only thing that they need to do in the world is to create a situation of emergency so all these people can step forward. And we have to understand also that things being hidden in plain sight are also happening everywhere. They are in the entertainment industry, they are in movies, in music videos, concerts, everywhere. There are symbols that are very powerful, ancient symbols, and they are being used hidden in plain sight in order for the leveraging of this energy, of this life force of people, because these ancient symbols are so imprinted in us, in our subconscious, generationally, like through our ancestral lineage, that when we see them subconsciously, we don't realize, but they are provoking a lot of energy. So there's a lot of energy that is being freed up, and a lot of emotional reaction to those things subconsciously. So they are very aware with that, these individuals, and many of these rituals are being done, I mean, concerts as well, in a ritualistic way, intentionally for the harvesting of the energy. So if we don't have awareness about these things being done intentionally, then we don't have an understanding of the political system either, and how the deep state works. And then we don't have the tools to solve problems. So what happened with this pandemic and with this war, again, because both pandemics and wars are generating terror, confusion, and fear in the world. So the energies are being leveraged. Now we have an opportunity to look deeply into what is going on, what is happening, and to hold those people accountable for these terrors. And as I always say, there is collateral damage, and there are real people that are suffering from these orchestrations. So we don't downplay that. But simply because of that, we have to look into these things to ensure that these horrors never ever happen again. And to a certain degree, there is an acceptance of this corrupt system. Like how many people are saying, how many people you are hearing saying that, oh, you know, there has been always corruption. This has been always like that. It's okay. No, we can no longer accept that. We can no longer gaslight ourselves. Because when you're gaslighting what is happening in the external world, that yeah, there has been always corruption, there has been always wars and pandemics, and so when you justify these things and you accept them, you are actually justifying the horror in your own life as well. And you are gaslighting yourself as well. And many times we are not aware with that we are doing that internally as well. What we are doing externally is exactly what is happening internally as well. And trust me, those that are saying that, yeah, there has been always corruption, this is how rich people are, you know, this is how corporations are. It's okay, it has been always like that. Those people that are justifying that and are accepting that, those people are accepting toxic relationships as well. They are having toxic relationships with other people, and they are accepting toxic people in their lives too. And they are justifying those toxic behaviors. As within, so without. So when you're accepting the crap that is external, you have a lot of crap that is internal as well, 100%. And yeah, I have seen that with the war thing as well. I talked about that actually many people are justifying that, and they don't realize that are being brainwashed. When you justify war, you are being brainwashed as well. We don't need wars. We can solve the problems of the society in a civilized and diplomatic way. Countries can solve their differences in a civilized way, in a diplomatic way. We don't need to kill each other, full stop. When you have a conflict with your neighbor, you're not going to kill them, right? And it always takes two people to have a war. When one people is in war with themselves, you can respond to their internal war that they are projecting onto you. You have a choice to respond in a peaceful way or in an aggressive way. And when you are responding in an aggressive way, then there are two people that are fighting with each other. So we have a war. So I understand that everything starts with us. Peace starts with us. That's why it's so important to do shadow work and not to spiritually bypass, but to look at your own shadows and stop projecting them onto other people. Stop the war within yourself. So we have to hold these people accountable and not to turn a blind eye. And we do that to honor those that passed away and that are suffering as a collateral result of everything that is going on. we have to understand how these spiritual and occult practices are being done and how energy is being leveraged. So we have to look into everything that is suspicious. We owe that to ourselves, and it's our duty, actually. We owe that to other people as well, to our planet, to humanity, to look into these things. We can no longer afford to accept corruption and brain chips to be implanted in us, and artificial intelligence to be linked to our brain, and these kind of things. We can no longer do that. It is time to really wake up. So, as I said, these dark entities are using tragedies to manipulate the public. And these opportunities are great for them to take away people's rights and to have an immense overreach as a result of that. And the reason why many times things are not making sense for us when a tragedy like this happens, a big narrative in the world like the pandemic and the war, at the beginning of the pandemic, things were not making sense. And this is what happened with the Ukraine-Russia crisis as well. Things were not adding up. They were not making sense. They were not supposed to make sense. It's because this is one of those occult practices as well, to create confusion, because with that they can buy time for themselves, and they can also harvest the energy of confusion. And then, of course, they can establish certain things while people are being busy with fighting with each other and trying to find out what is really going on. So it's the harvesting of energy, but then establishing things as well. And with the harvesting of energy, what happens is that you are giving your full attention to them. So you are giving your power away. When you are confused about a situation, you are really trying to find out what is going on. Actually, you are giving your power away. And many times we are not noticing that we are actually doing that, because we think that we are just curious. But we argue with people. We fight with each other. We have our differences with others that have a different view. And while we are all doing that, we are giving our power away. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that eugenics and depopulation is not the #1 goal of these elites. Because what is making them feel like our masters and gods is not to kill us, not to depopulate the world. That is one of the goals as well, but not to a degree that we think. But what is making them to feel special is when they can have our power, when they can harvest the energy of division. So their real occult power lies within making us to fight each other, convincing us to be divided, because when we are divided, we become disempowered. This is what their real occult power is, because the energy that they harvest through division is what is feeding them. They cannot exist without that energy. So that is what is making them feel overlords and real superior to the human race, being above the human race. The fact that they could convince us subconsciously, without us realizing, or even consciously, to fight each other, to hurt each other, to kill each other. So this is what pandemics and wars are used for. And this is where their real occult power is lying. And it is not lying in killing us, because these people are very aware of the metaphysical laws, and they know very well that by killing us, that would accumulate a lot of karma to them. So there's no power in that. There's no power in just killing us. That would just bring a lot of karma. They know metaphysically that there's no power in force, in using force, even though they use force as well sometimes. But most of the time that is not the case. But they know that there is power in convincing a population to opt into their agenda using their free will. So there is power in you giving consent to them. And this is what happened with the injections as well. They convince people to opt into it, not by force, but by using their free will. And then, of course, they pressured people's free will, but then eventually it was people's choice. And that is the real power. So what happened with the injections was that they secured their power, and they were trying at least to secure a control grid as well with that, by convincing people to use their free will to opt into that, into their dark agenda. So this is what these dark entities are doing, these dark magicians. They are inverting timelines, and they are also using these energies to harvest them because it's feeding them, but they are also using these energies to create a timeline that is synthetic. So what the people need to understand, and what humanity needs to understand, that the consent is ours. Our free wills are ours. That cannot be taken away from you. And when you are using your free will and your discernment and your consent, you are actually being protected, because your choice of your consent and free will is supporting life. And then life is supporting you as well. And the universe is supporting you. So do not be afraid to use your free will, because you are being actually protected when you do that. But many people, what happened with many of them, they gave their free will away just with the simple fact that they opted into the injections. That's why it's so important in a metaphysical sense what happened there. Yeah, people really need to understand how to read energy, and how not to buy into this sense of immediacy. That's a occult practice as well, to create this sense of urgency, sense of immediacy, and that is being used by the mainstream media as well. It is being used by the governments as well to create this doom and gloom kind of environment and energy. But it's a practice of spiritual people as well. Even on YouTube, how many times you have come across videos where they say that, oh my God, not everyone will make it. So many people will die. Only the unvaxxed will make it. Final warning, be careful. These kind of things. And many people do that without realizing. But that's a typically used practice within dark entities, to give them your full attention, to give them your full energy, to give your power away to them. So your full attention is being directed to them and what is happening there. So we have to be aware of that as well, because there's so many dark entities in the New Age community, unfortunately. So as I said, discernment is extremely, extremely important. And yeah, so these are the things that I wanted to talk about. And I think what is really important for us to know also, to understand that we have an opportunity by looking into these things, these practices, and these dark forces, to respond in a different way, and to see ourselves as powerful, as a force. Humanity is a force that can hold these false leaders accountable. And we no longer have to accept corruption. And it's time for us to accept zero corruption and to stop justifying it. So we have an opportunity now to push back in a grounded and methodical way by looking at the horrors, but not getting caught up in them, not getting caught up in the drama where we can give our power away, because we are giving our power away when we get caught up in that. So we have an opportunity to integrate that darkness. So the darkness no longer has power over us, but we have power over the darkness. To understand that no matter how big the tragedy in the world is, we can still handle the situation, not by fighting each other, but by uniting. And to understand that regardless of the severity of the situation, that is not an excuse for us to buy into the propaganda and buy into the drama of it all, because this is how we are giving our power away. So it's time for us to get back our power, what is ours, and to understand that we do have free will, and the consent is ours, and no one can take that away from us. So yes, tragedy is being used to harvest these energies, and people are suffering. But we will not solve anything if we start fighting each other. So let's be aware with that. And let's be aware with the agenda of these lower beings and everything that they are orchestrating. And that synthetic timeline is just a mockery of our own heart-based organic timeline. It's a bad copy of it. And that transhumanist agenda and the human capabilities are just a mockery of the real spiritual capabilities of a human being. They are bad copies. This is all that they can do. They cannot generate anything organic. They have to rely on synthetic timelines. So yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about today, and thank you so much everyone who is supporting me on my Patreon. And if you are interested in my Patreon, you can check it out as well, where I'm posting group guidances and channeled information, channeled guidance for my group, for my patrons, and doing readings as well. And then I am doing, and I will be doing more channeled guided meditations too, multidimensional meditations, and then healing meditations for those that are joining my Patreon. So yeah, I'm planning to do lots of things in the future and to post quite frequently, and then also extra channel messages and the transcripts of my channel messages as well. So I hope that today's video could resonate with some of you, and yeah, I'm sending you a lot of love. Take care of yourselves, and I cannot wait to see you next time.